Settle down, settle down. I'm not saying Freddy's Dead is the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie or anything. It's not like I'm coming down to your collection and destroying all your Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but this one. But I gotta say, this movie received too much hate. It still receives too much hate. Apologize. Welcome back to the Ecto Violence channel. My name is Alec. Today, we're talking Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Now, we're not talking about a format specifically today, but the scans we're talking about today did come from the box set DVD, which is the one that has the 3D scenes intact. Now, I've talked about this box set before, but this box set specifically is what got me into Nightmare on Elm Street. It's when I finally saw all the movies. I ordered it on Amazon used in 2006, 7, somewhere in there. Me and my brother binged the whole series. Neither of us had seen all of them. We had seen a couple of them here and there, for sure 1 and 3, but at that point I had not yet seen Freddy's Dead. First time watch, I loved it. I'm big into horror comedy, not just horror. I love the Evil Dead movies. Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time. My favorite movie of all time is Ghostbusters. This movie came out September 13th, 1991. I was alive for this one, but I was a baby. Now they talked about the 3D scene, right? When do we put the 3D glasses on is what people were saying to, theater staff when they went to see this. Like, I don't know. They know that the movie is not entirely in 3D. Although that could have been interesting. 3D glasses get tiring to wear after about 20 or 30 minutes, so I think they did that on purpose. Now, this has currently a 22% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is just trifling. Now, no, critics generally aren't big fans of horror. More recently, a lot of critics, I would say, are horror fans. But that's because they come from internet culture. Now, in regards to the 3D, I actually don't have the 3D glasses that came with Freddy's Dead. I hate to use a spare set that I just kind of had laying around. Now, I don't currently have it hanging up, but in all of the previous incarnations of my studio, I had a Freddy's Dead poster hanging on the wall. I'm a big fan of this movie. Now, here's the thing. I'm a big fan of all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and I think all of them are really solid. In terms of strong horror franchises, I think Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream are very strong all the way through. Now, they have weaker elements, but even the weaker elements are still enjoyable movies to me. You say Scream 3 is the worst Scream movie, for example. I don't necessarily agree with that. A lot of people would say it is. That's still a great movie for your worst movie in your franchise. And no, it's not like thought-provoking, it's not like The Shawshank Redemption or anything, but these are good movies. These are fun movies. They are entertaining. Now, while we're here talking about this physical media and this snapcase version of this, that has, by the way, the 3D version intact, apparently there is a work print of this movie that's 47 minutes longer. I don't think that has been released on anything. Where this gets interesting is physical media fans will know that there is a Nightmare on Elm Street 4K Steelbook collection coming later this year. And probably a version that's not steelbooks, right? People who are a fan of Planet CHH, Christian's talked a lot about this. I think he broke the story that Rachel Talalay was working on the 4K restoration for this movie. Rachel Talalay was posting on Instagram that she's working on the 4K restoration for Freddy's Dead, which he took this as not as a sign of, oh yeah, I love Freddy's Dead necessarily, but the 4K box set is for sure coming then. If they're working on Freddy's Dead, they're working on the rest of them. However, she did mention in this post that the 3D was something that they were restoring, and it was going to look great and better than before. And while we're talking about that, let's talk about the 3D in this movie, okay? So I watched this movie on this DVD, and this DVD doesn't include like a non-3D version. At least, not that I could see. There might be like one hidden as an Easter egg that I don't know about. But every other release has the scene in the regular 2D version, other than the French laser disc from what I could read. Apparently they included it, and I don't know if it was like an option. I think 3D as a horror gimmick is very interesting. I just reviewed My Bloody Valentine 3D as well. There was Jaws, Friday the 13th, obviously. Now, when 3D came back in the recent years, they figured out a way to avoid the red and blue and have this shutter technology, right? Or these weird shades that don't even do the shutter thing. That was for like the home TVs. I mean, it's fascinating stuff, and sometimes it was really cool to go see a movie that way. But most of the time, it's like a weird gimmick that just kind of makes the movie annoying to watch. It hurts your eyes. Glasses hurt your face. They're not cardboard, they're cheap plastic, and they're squeezing the sides of your head. The fact is, 3D is talked about a lot negatively. It was really popular in the 50s, came back in the 80s, came back in the late 2000s, 2010s. Remember when 3D TVs were all everybody was talking about? What was that, like 2011? When they started putting motion smoothing in TVs, and oh man. Another interesting thing I read was that this film production was actually influenced by the production of Twin Peaks, because Twin Peaks aired and they watched it as they were making this movie. It's particularly interesting to me because this movie stars Lisa Zane, and her brother Billy Zane has a role in Twin Peaks Season 2. Now, obviously, the common criticisms of this movie include just the comedy aspect. Like, that's a big thing. People don't like how funny it gets here, and I personally don't mind it. I want a little diversity in each of my movies in a series. I don't want them to all to be the same thing. You know, you want them to have the same ingredients, but just be a different flavor. And I think we got it here. It's definitely different. It definitely progresses the story. You know, introducing Freddy's daughter here. And whether or not you like that, because I personally don't necessarily love it, it's still interesting. It adds to the lore. And I do gotta say, man, even just the picture on this DVD looks great. I found myself looking at this movie, the DVD, you know, I was watching it on the 4K TV, just like thinking, man, this looks awesome. This looks good. This is gonna look crazy on 4K. So like Freddy coming out as the Wicked Witch of the West, and that's his first appearance.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul, too!
You know, I love this stuff. It's schlocky and wonderful. I think that's people's biggest criticisms, to be honest, is the Freddy's daughter thing and the comedy, the how schlocky it gets with some of the kills. Like the video game kill, the TV kill, it's not scary at all, no. It's amusing, for sure, and I like it still, but it is not even remotely scary. And that's the thing, if you look at some of these deaths and you compare them to the original Nightmare on Elm Street, you're like, what the fuck were they thinking? That's where this movie gets criticized, you know? But to be honest, I think, you know, the third one's obviously where they started really adding comedy. The director has admitted that he did that on purpose. Child's Play is another franchise I love, and I wouldn't love it as much as I do without the comedy aspects that eventually rolled into it and just snowballed. I mean, there's some great stuff with Freddy in this movie too.
Every town has an Elm Street.
Like that's one of the most iconic lines from any of these movies, you know? Now, obviously, there's a couple from 1 and 3, I think, that are bigger, but other than that, I think this one's the most quotable. And I mentioned before in previous videos that 2 is my personal favorite, but I love them all. The other scene, when he's cutting off his fingers, listing all the ways people tried to kill him.
First, they tried burning me. They tried burying me. They even tried holy water.
Another, like, sort of reference to the first movie when he's like, hey, Tina, watch this. I mean, the way the movie ends.
Freddy's dead.
Come on, it's iconic. And then the montage that takes place there, it's beautiful. And the thing is, if you pick up this movie with Freddy versus Jason so many years later, it actually works. It works really well. You kind of get away from that the schlocky style of this, and Freddy becomes scary in that movie again. Like, he's fucking terrifying in Freddy vs. Jason. Now, he has some funny stuff that goes on too, but like, he's actually threatening again, you know what I mean? And just talking about Freddy vs. Jason makes me want to watch it. I love that movie too. Well, that's it. That's all I got to say. You might say, hey, that wasn't really a lot of evidence about why I should apologize to this movie. And I would say, yeah, I really just want to talk about how much I liked this movie. And I know that other people don't, but you should. Let me know what you think of Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare in the comments down below. Are you excited for the 4K box set? Are you going to watch this one? Did you see this one in theaters? Are you old enough? Did you see the 3D then? And have you seen it since on home video? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, be sure to check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.